Hello, my name is Kyle Medeiros. I'm a licensed alcohol and drug addiction counselor in the state of Massachusetts. And the purpose of this video is to offer a brief introduction and a commentary on my book, Riding the Pink Cloud: How to Survive and, dare I say, Enjoy Addiction Treatment. I haven't rehearsed this at all. This is completely on the fly. It's completely off the cuff. I used to make YouTube videos back in the day. I actually deleted all of them because, much like tattoos, sometimes I don't like permanent things because I feel like I'm always evolving as a person and my perspectives are always changing. So even like a lot of the political views that I like held way back in the day, like 9 years ago when I made YouTube videos, I don't even hold those same views. So I don't really keep my stuff on the internet. I'm kind of a private person. I don't really like to be the center of attention all that often. But I did write a book, and it is, in my mind, my gift to the world. The reason why I wrote it was because, something I talk about in the book, and something that I think all human beings need to sort of accept and surrender to, is the idea that we're all going to die one day. I don't mean to start the video off in such a solemn place, but the truth is, if you have a gift to give the world, you don't have a lot of time to give it. So, and I think a lot of pain that people go through is because they're holding back on something that they're supposed to be giving to the world. I don't know why they hold it back. I know why I hold things back. It's out of fear. But at least in the realm of my profession and writing books, fear didn't hold me back. So long after I'm gone, I'll have something to leave to the world that hopefully is going to help a few people. So before I get into the book, um, I want to communicate to any viewers. Maybe this is somebody who's considering buying the book, or maybe even considering going to treatment, or I don't know how you came across this video. Maybe you're an old subscriber from back in the day. Um, but there's something I need to make pretty clear to every viewer and every reader of the book. I never expected to make money from this book. I invested $5,500 to publish this, and that's only so far because I could market it. I've made $33 so far. So the point of me writing this book wasn't to make money. There's not a lot of money to be made. It's self-published, and I use Palmetto Publishing, and they were fine. I don't have anybody else to compare them to. Um, but I never thought that, okay, I'm going to write this book and I'm going to become famous and I'm going to become the new recovery guy, some famous recovery person. That's actually pretty antithetical to what real recovery is all about, which real recovery, in my mind, is to do things for the sake of being in recovery and to contribute. And the only reward you really need is the serenity and the freedom that comes with helping others and being part of a community, right? So I wrote the book because I read a lot of books and I had an idea for a book. And it's kind of like, you ever watch NFL football and you kind of wish you were out there playing with them? Well, I could never be an NFL football player. That time's passed for me. But I didn't have to sit in the sidelines and watch all the other people write books. So I decided to tag in and write my own book. And I think it's something only I could offer the world, and that's why it's so special to me, because I do talk about a little bit of my own experience, my own sort of evolution in treatment, and what it did for me, and sort of where I started and where I've ended up now, which is actually director of clinical operations of a rehab of addiction treatment. So I've been working in the profession for 10 years, and the work started when I was a client, right? And I've contributed to this profession and to this lane for a long time. And, the whole 10,000 hours of is what's required for mastery. I've long surpassed that and become a licensed therapist and a recovery coach, although I never went ahead and got the actual certification because it didn't matter to me. But I wrote this book, and my hope is that, if you're considering going to treatment, maybe buying my book reading it will feel like you have a little bit more of a roadmap of what to expect. The book handles a lot of internal things. It doesn't handle too many external things. You'll learn pretty quickly that I'm speaking to you, the reader. The reader is I wanted the book to be about the reader. I talk about my own experience, but I wanted it to feel like I was having a conversation with you, which is why I'm filming this video the way I'm filming it, completely unrehearsed, just me having a conversation with the viewer. And it's funny because one of the sort of events in my life that created the right environment for me to write a book was that my car broke down and I had to take a train to visit my ex-girlfriend. And that on that train ride is where I wrote the book. And then it sat in the shelf for a couple of years while I finished up my master's. And then after I got my master's, I had all this momentum of I was able to work, and that's been the truth for me. To when I'm in school, I actually get more energy to do more work because I sort of have momentum going. I did a lot of writing in my undergrad, and that I was primed to write a book. So something I talk about in recovery with, and I'm also a private therapist, so I have a private practice too. In case if you're interested in getting one-on-one counseling in the state of Massachusetts, I can help you with that. But something I tell my clients all the time, because I tell myself this, is that sometimes you just got to take whatever the universe gives you. The universe created, or God created, an environment for me that actually helped me to write the book. See, my car breaking down in the moment didn't feel like an opportunity was presenting itself. But like in poker, you got to play the cards you were dealt. And sometimes you don't get dealt very good hands, but you can still make money from bad hands, right? And it's not even all about bluffing. It's all about playing whatever cards you have. So learning how to play those cards correctly. So the universe gave me more train rides and more time alone. So I wanted to kill that time with something productive, right? And it also put a girlfriend in my life who's not in my life anymore. But at that time, she was very encouraging, and she was very big on challenging me, which I really was so helpful because she challenged me to write this book. She challenged me to be the man that I said I was. So the motivation plus that being on that train actually precipitated the right environment for me to change as a person. So viewer, if you're in treatment or if you got, quote unquote bad things going on in your life, always understand that you never know when something bad is happening right now, but it opens the door for something really good. Typically, people who get sober are getting sober because of some type of really bad event is motivating them. Maybe they've been contemplative about getting sober and then something happens that's sort of like the last straw, and that could be like an emotional event. But my car is currently broken down and I'm waiting for the mechanic to call me, which I am going to answer the phone when they call me, and I'll probably stop the video there. But I've been working so much, private practice and working at a director level, that I haven't had really the opportunity to sit and have 30 minutes to sit and just talk about the book, right? This is more for me than for anybody because I'm not going to attract 1 million viewers. I'm only going to attract 50 tops. But it's for me to look back on and say, remember that day when the car broke down again? Car breaks down. That's the environment to do something with the book. So I look at life. I look at some of the things that happen in my life as very, very symbolic, right? So let's talk about the actual book now. So Riding the Pink Cloud, How to Survive and, dare I say, Enjoy Addiction Treatment, has 2 chapters in 4 sections. Okay. 4 chapters, 2 sections. The first section is called Surviving. The second section is called Enjoying, or Thriving in Treatment. But I use the word enjoying because I actually don't know why I use the word enjoying. I just didn't like the word thriving. So, because happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, which is the quote that starts the second section. But I wanted to write a book that captured the things that I witnessed and observed as a client and as a counselor that I never saw really getting talked about. Now, obviously, there are things in the book that get talked about all the time, everything from SMART goals, and I'm not the first person to talk about impatience. Obviously, I'm not the first person to talk about arrogance, but I feel like I'm one of the first people to word things in the way that it's worded in the book that I think is very, very particular to people in treatment. I am a member of a 12-step fellowship, which doesn't have to be named right now, but I am a member of a 12-step fellowship. And this is not a book about the 12 steps, but that sort of language does creep in, along with some academic language, along with how I speak to my friends and family. So, it's a very, I think it's offering something different, particularly the section on emotional decision making. So the first chapter of the book is called Surviving. And what I'm trying to teach the reader is that, well, first I should probably describe who the optimal reader is, and then I'll get into what the actual chapters are going to address, the actual sections and chapters, right? So my book is actually for a very particular type of client. Okay, it's a very small sliver of the type of clients that are going to be in treatment. Okay, so most of the clients that get to treatment are people that I call simply not ready. This is not even to say anything negative or cynical about anybody. It's simply an observation that these individuals are pre-contemplative, which would be the clinical word, but these individuals do not want to be sober. They don't think that they have a problem. They have ulterior motives for being in treatment. They're not in treatment for the sake of sobriety, and even if they say they are, their actions don't match their words at all, and that's actually a form of self-sabotage called all talk, no action. Some people are so good at lying that they start to believe their own lies, but there's no action to follow up their words. So the video doesn't match the audio. So my book, so that covers most of the people right there. And then there's people in treatment that know everything in the book without reading it because they've been through the experiences a million times, or they have good sponsorship, or they just don't need the book because they've seen it. I mean, they could probably still benefit from the book, but maybe they don't need to read it. So there's a very small sliver of people in treatment right now that are 100% ready, but still won't make it because the way addiction works is that it tricks you into things. I like to personify addiction a lot. So addiction will talk to you in your voice, tell you that it's not there, and sort of tell you that everything's going really well when it's not. Or when things are not going well, it'll tell you that it is, or it will make small things seem like a big deal, or it'll make big things feel like a small deal. And it will use your emotions and your sensitivities in order to isolate you from forces that are going to help you stay sober. So my book is the cheat code to override and to gain some sense and some knowledge and some direction to override that part of addiction only in treatment. My book is not going to help you stay sober for the rest of your life. My book isn't going to convince your loved ones that they should be sober. My book isn't going to convince you to stay sober. My book isn't going to convince anybody that they're an addict. That's not what it's there for. My book is for a very small group of people who are 100% ready, who simply don't know any better because they either don't know what they're up against, and they just haven't gone through it before. They're the type of people that get 90 days clean and think that they understand recovery when it's impossible to understand recovery in 90 days because that's not enough time to go through enough life to have enough experience. And what I talk about in the book very often is the idea of concept versus experience. A lot of us have a concept of what recovery is, or what it takes to be sober. Like a lot of us can give advice to others because we have a concept, but very few of us have the wisdom derived from actually living through life sober. The actual that's the goal. That's what's enriching to yourself and others when you actually have the experience and you're speaking from experience. You're not speaking in a conceptual way, right? So that's what I want for people to read the book. I want them to have a personal experience in recovery, in addiction treatment. So let's actually talk about the book now. So first part of the book, like I already mentioned, is called The Many Forms of Self-Sabotage. And what I'm trying to do for the readers, I'm trying to, it's kind of like if you think about like recovery is like driving down the highway, I'm trying to hold up signs that are saying like, careful, bump ahead, careful, exit here, don't take this exit, careful, exit here, don't take this exit. And the exits are really a form of sort of mental blocks. I think a lot of us come into addiction treatment with a lot of mental blocks simply because we don't know any better. But the forms of self-sabotage range from just being impatient, and that's the big one. And that's really what it all comes down to, is that people don't do well in treatment because they're impatient. They have desire to complete treatment, but they don't have the patience to complete treatment. A lot of people put in about 10 to 15% of the work that's required to succeed in treatment, thinking that they put in enough, and then are, sort of get like a rude awakening when they find that their efforts actually don't match what's required in order to be successful in treatment. So my book is there to sort of give you a heads up on some stuff, that this whole thing, dude, if you're actually gonna succeed and enjoy treatment, it's gonna take 75% of your effort while you're in treatment should go to treatment, right? So in the many forms of self-sabotage, I'm basically talking about, like, you have good intentions, but despite your good intentions, forces within you sort of ruin what you had planned. And sometimes I think what people do is they'll crush it for like 80% of the time, and then all it takes is 20% of running on old behaviors, self-will, whatever you want to call it, and that's enough to blow it all up, and then make people come back to treatment and say, how the hell did I get here again? Right? Or they'll say things in group like, you don't lose what you know, right? I didn't lose any of the knowledge. It's like, okay, what you knew about recovery almost got you killed. So, you actually don't know that much, all right? Because you didn't go 100% in. All right? It takes, and the main thing with the many forms of self-sabotage is it takes a tremendous amount of humility. It takes a tremendous amount of humility to survive addiction treatment. And the mistakes that I talk about that I don't think I get talked about in the academic world is like, too much too soon, trying to get a job, that's sort of overwhelming too soon, or going back to an old job that you had before you got into treatment. Emotional decision making, where your emotional boundaries are pushed so much that because you have a bad attitude, you're not able to get through sort of the criticism that's going to come that's meant to transform you, right? You don't go to treatment. So there's, I like trauma-informed care. I like compassion. I like, these are all important things. You shouldn't have tough love without love, right? But sometimes love is honesty. And if you really want somebody to change and to do well, you have to be honest with them. And when you have the self-sabotage of emotional decision making, when people are honest with you, you get defensive, and then you point the finger back and you blame and you take out the blame thrower. And sometimes it doesn't matter that you're right. It only matters that you were wrong about something. And it's better to focus on that, because that's what helps you to grow. That's what helps you to get better. So many forms of self-sabotage. Highly recommend reading that for anybody who's like new to treatment and ready to succeed in treatment, because that's the chapter that I believe people read it and they go, oh my God, like, I can't believe, how does he know? Like, get out of my head. Like, how did I didn't think anybody else was like this but me. And I'm going to identify patterns that I want you to avoid. So as you're going, I'm going to say, hey, here's an exit a lot of people take. Don't take the exit. Just keep going forward. So that's what that part of the book is for. And then the next part is called Moths to the Flame. It's if it was given a clinical word, it would be called the chapter on relapse prevention. And it's very similar to the many forms of self-sabotage. It could very easily just be a continuation of that chapter. It's a lot of the same sort of like same ideas. But I think the most important thing I talk about in the chapter called Moths to the Flame, which, by the way, Moths to the Flame is when a moth will fly into fire because it's light and it's warmth, not knowing that the fire is dangerous. Relapse is the same thing. I use that to describe powerlessness. When you are sort of hooked and obsessed on an idea and you move towards the drug or the booze without even realizing you're doing it. Like, you don't even realize what's going on. You're sort of hypnotized, and I call that powerlessness. That when an alcoholic feels sort of like hypnotized into drinking, because that's what's going on, it's obsession and compulsion. It's very much like a moth to the flame. So what I'm trying to do in that chapter is I'm trying to dig a little bit deeper than the forms of self-sabotage. Like if you think about it, the forms of self-sabotage are going to, if you don't overcome the forms of self-sabotage, you're going to end up as a moth to the flame. So the reason why the moth to the flame comes after is like it's sort of like avoiding a regression going backwards. But even if you do well in the form of self-sabotage, you still read forward into moths to the flame because it's going to hammer home a lot of important concepts. And a lot of the people that read the book are going to need to read it a few times. So the most important thing I talk about in Moths to the Flame is the section on conditional recovery, or playing the victim. Basically, if you have any conditions on your recovery, it is not going to work. We have to be willing to stay clean or stay sober no matter what happens. And that's why people in long-term recovery, particularly those who attend 12-step meetings, get frustrated and they sort of scoff at the idea of triggers. It's like, okay. And I can tell the reader too, and I can tell the family members of a reader, like, if you're still worried about triggers, like, you got a long way to go before you're going to stay sober, because I'm not saying that triggers are not real, because they are. But if somebody is in the grip of an addiction, they're going to be triggered by almost anything. Their cell phone, having money in their pocket, boredom. It's good to identify those things, but it doesn't do anything. You know, you're not going to, once somebody's triggered, it's extremely hard to get them out of that powerlessness, that moth to the flame. So you have to get people to the point where they realize that it's an inside personal job. Like, it's an inside personal job. There's nothing outside of you that makes you do anything. It's all your perspective. If you are upset, angry, sad, perturbed in any way, it's you. 100% of the time. It's never the events of life. And I say that as somebody who's lost their twin sister and dad to overdoses. All right? Of course, those are bad things, right? But you never know when the universe or God, something bad happens. Well, what are you supposed to do with that? What good are you supposed to extract from that bad thing? And just resisting it does nothing for anybody. So that chapter is supposed to make the reader realize that until you're ready to let go of all reservations, whether it be like, minimizing certain substances, old behaviors, I forget what I call that chapter, sneaky, dishonest behaviors, that's what I call it. Leaving treatment too soon, not finishing strong. People don't realize that the complacency is a big enemy in surviving and enjoying treatment, particularly surviving, right? Because if you stay in treatment a long time and you've gotten through that first couple of months, if you think your ego is done with you, it's not. It's not. It's going to come back dressed as someone different this time. So you got to keep that in mind. All right. So if you can get through the first two chapters, the first section of the book, that's surviving. So now you're in a position where eventually, in life, we're no longer just getting by. I want to help people actually thrive in treatment or enjoy treatment. But I don't recommend, going to the spa. You know what I mean? I don't recommend going to yoga. Which yoga? Yeah, well, I think I may even recommend you going to yoga. Yoga's cool, but the point I'm trying to make is like, we'll shift our conversation now to the second part of the book. The point I'm trying to make is you're going to continuously work towards something. And that's how you're going to enjoy it. The progressive realization of a worthy ideal is what brings happiness. Or that's what success is. So it's an Earl Nightingale quote. So we'll shift to the back part of the book now. So there's a section called Back to the Basics. The chapter is called Back to the Basics. And one of the most prideful things about being an alcoholic or an addict is sort of like the denial that you need to have when it comes to being a functioning human being. Like, you will rationalize and justify all sorts of settling for less behaviors because you were so focused on drinking and using that you have low self-esteem, whether you realize it or not, and you are acting subhuman or overhuman, overworking, or trying to be perfect, trying to be a perfectionist, subhuman, homeless, ending up in an alleyway. By the way, if there's any kind of mental illness, I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to people that are here to talk about addiction treatment. And I know a lot of the folks have mental health stuff, co-occurring disorders. I'm not licensed to talk to those people directly, but I do think my book can still be helpful because you have to address addiction issues and mental health issues. So when it comes to people, when I talk about people, living subpar, I am not talking about like schizophrenics need to just pull themselves up by the bootstraps. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the people who are underfunctioning as a result of settling for less for so long and lowering their standards one bag at a time, one drink at a time. In Narcotics Anonymous, they say living at an animalistic level. I'm talking about those people that have the capacity to come back down to earth or come back up to earth to start functioning like a not a normal, I was going to say normal, not a normal, but a healthy individual. So I talk about the 7 dimensions of wellness and how it's easier to, whatever you can measure in your life, you can manage. That's a quote from Jim Collins. So I talk about something called the 7 dimensions of wellness, and I suggest that the person in treatment sort of treat themselves like a role play video game where it's like you have 7 different little meters and you want to try to keep those meters full. Most important being the physical meter, because your physical wellness impacts the rest of the 7 dimensions of wellness. So that first part, basics of wellness, 7 dimensions of wellness. It's basically I'm giving you very basic tools on how to be a functioning human being. Get the basics right. Addiction made you settle for less and not take care of yourself. This is going to teach you how to take care of yourself. It's a very interesting chapter, especially emotional wellness and occupational wellness, because I get into sort of the nitty gritty of cognitive behavioral therapy and how that completely changed my life around in my emotional wellness. So I'm very proud of that section. I hope people read it. And then the last chapter is called Life at a Higher Standard. And, we've been talking about living in low ways for most of the book. And then we talked about sort of getting back to the basics and operating like a functional human being again. So if we are able to accomplish that, really the only way forward is up. So I start talking about bigger ideas, a lot more abstract concepts about keeping your eyes on the big picture and about, reputation, honor, unforeseen opportunities, communities, strength. And I talk about these like bigger ideas, these more abstract, these more existentialist ideas of like you get through treatment by stopping the demand for it to go your way at all times. And ultimately, that's how to enjoy life, is to stop demanding that it go your way all the time. But in the book, I apply those big concepts to the scenarios that you're going to find in treatment. Why doing your chore is important, not to make the counselors happy, but for you and how you communicate with yourself and how your behavior is a language and how you communicate to yourself, right? You are watching yourself live this whole time. And if you continue to watch yourself lie or continue to watch yourself cut corners, that's what you're going to do. So it's all about raising your standard, life at a higher standard. It's understanding that normal people get to do whatever they want with their life. Maybe they don't have to be honest. Maybe they don't have to have a good reputation. But people in recovery, we need to be honest. We need to be rigorously honest. We need to be connected to others in recovery. We ought to help out in the house and visit others and be of service to others and contribute to others in a way, because that's the secret to life, is getting to a place where you are more focused on less focused on what you're getting out of something and more focused on how you can contribute to others, right? So, I mean, this is a very, very quick snapshot of the book. There's a lot more to it, but I'm proud of it. The book is like $15, like paperback, and like $22 hardcover. I'm not really trying to sell the book. This is for people who are interested in buying the book. If you work at a treatment facility and you want me to present the book in any way, you can go to my Psychology Today. My name is Kyle Medeiros, LADC I. In the back of the book, there's a QR code that I can't find right now because I didn't rehearse these things. And I'd be happy to like go to your treatment facility and do a something akin to a commitment and talk about the book and bring a couple of copies for you guys. And yeah, man, I just this is just for me. I know I got some family members that are subscribed to my YouTube channel. I don't think I'm gonna make any more videos. I just did this for fun. I'm proud of this book. I was homeless, around the age of 23, and I got clean when I was 24, and I went to school, and I haven't done heroin, weed, alcohol. I have not put a substance in my body for over 10 years, and I've become, I feel like I've made something of myself being a director at a rehab, a director of clinical operations, which, it's funny too, because my team, they're so good and they're so competent that as a leader, it's like you think you're going to be the best guy in the room, the smartest guy in the room. It's like, no. Your team, they're the brilliant ones, and your job is to lift them up. That's something I've learned as a leader, as I've tried to become a better leader. So yeah, I'm proud of this book. I hope it helps people, and if you need counseling, one-on-one counseling for addiction, you can sign up at my Psychology Today or leave a comment, and I'm happy to help out in any way I can. So yeah, thank you for watching. If you're a family or friends, appreciate you checking out the video. My name's Kyle, and that's Riding the Pink Cloud.